Hey, Rebels, welcome back to the channel. So I'm seeing across YouTube, there's a lot of excitement in the air. A lot of influencers talking about buying this dip, getting very excited that altcoin season is going to happen any second. And I'm just seeing a signal flashing in the S&P 500 that suggests that we may have a little bit longer than I think most people are anticipating. This is not a bad thing. This is actually something to get excited about. So if that sounds good, like and subscribe. We're just going to dive right in. Right now, I want to just quickly review. I've talked about this previously on the channel, but we are entering typically a seasonal correction. Bitcoin's seen this many times. I've just highlighted basically the August to October timeframes here, and we can see that we typically see a low or a decline during this period in bull and bear markets. It's just kind of just generally an area of weakness. We're not seeing a lot of strength during this period seasonally throughout Bitcoin's history. So that's not a bad thing because, as you can see right here, we had this seasonal weakness, and then that's what led into the final blow off top. So this is kind of what I'm anticipating. I'm not necessarily saying that this is exactly what we're going to get, but I'm anticipating something similar to this kind of seasonal correction before things get exciting. So yes, there's a lot of influencers talking about buying the dip, buying it aggressively. Dips are to be bought. The reason I'm coming on here is because there's a signal flashing in the S&P 500. It's not my signal, so I'm not going to go into depth on the function of the signal. But I just did highlight this signal a few times, basically just during this bull market, just to kind of see what we can expect. It's a sign of a potential slowdown, potential weakness. So we'll just kind of go through from the beginning of the bull market when these signals started flashing, and you can see that basically all I've done here is I've just highlighted the time frames that we can expect to see fresh highs. We did see it break fresh highs, but then we had a more severe correction, and it took 100 days for us to really climb out of the correction after this signal flashed. And you can see that there's not a lot of consistency with this signal as far as the what is the depth or the duration going to be. But it's just good to know what does the market give us so that we have some kind of idea so that if it does take 46 days, if it does take a month after this signal, we're not necessarily going to be caught off guard when everybody else is expecting some kind of giant push, right? We had it here 16 days, we had 12 days, and we had 46 days, and then of course we had this even larger correction, which was three months. I'm not anticipating anything like this 3 months, but this same signal flashed right here in all-time highs, and we're just going to have to see how this ends up playing out. So I'm basically anticipating anything from about 3 weeks to a month for this particular correction, which happens to line up pretty decently with the cycle analysis. Now, this is also a proprietary software that I pay for, but what I can basically do is I can blend different cycles because a lot of times markets will rhyme and they will take on a similar shape as in previous years or previous cycles past. And what I can do is I can make a composite of any particular cycle and blend them together just to kind of get an idea of which cycles are these tracking most similarly. So right now I have the 5-year cycle and the 10-year cycle, and as you can see, it's pretty darn correlated. There's lots of other cycles where the peaks and the troughs don't necessarily match, but in general, this thing seems to trend pretty decently. When the market's going down, Bitcoin's going down. When it's going up, it's generally going up. We get a sideways period, and we're just now entering into, you can kind of see like this August peak into a correction into September and October, which is again that seasonal weakness that we've typically seen in Bitcoin that I highlighted earlier. We're kind of seeing this in this composite as well. Okay, so what I'm anticipating is potentially, the market will have to lead the way and show us, but we are seeing some weakness in Bitcoin right now, which I can get into shortly. And I think this is kind of what we're in for right now. So now we're in this dilemma of like, well, how do we trade this? Because the analysis is saying potential weakness, but if you wait too long, then you're basically going to be left behind. The good news right now is that the search term for Bitcoin and crypto is starting to die off. And these are typically times, and I've done it many times myself, it's when the search volume is dying off and when the volatility is dying off, that you want to be more interested in the market, because typically what is happening right now, this is literally showing people getting disinterested in the market. And typically what happens is the train leaves empty, as they say. So when the low comes in, basically the smart money has bought up, and the big money is basically what comes in and buys and forms that base, and it's on and upward there. And really the interest doesn't come back until it's too late essentially, right? So this isn't this is a sign of weakness or a sign that retail or that the views are dying off. Basically, people are disinterested, and that's typically when you want to be interested. And I will say that if we just go to a Bitcoin chart very quickly, I'll just show you one quick example of that. Right around this area right here is when search terms were almost at their lows and volatility had been going down for quite some time, and this would have been a very good entry, but nobody was talking about it. There was no interest in the market at that time. So we're kind of heading into that seasonal slowdown, maybe a contraction and a correction in Bitcoin and the other altcoins. And that's just kind of what I wanted to warn about. This isn't a bad thing. This is a good thing. Typically, you want to get positioned in the lows. And so if as far as the trading goes, then you have to go into your individual altcoins and find different favorable setups, which I've gone through in many videos in the past. But I really just wanted to leave it at that because I am seeing a lot of excitement in the space right now. And yes, it's true. This thing could pop off at any time, but typically seasonally, we do have this slowdown, which is not a scary thing. It's not a bad thing. But also, if we're having that signal pop up in the S&P 500, we're not really going to see strength in Bitcoin or the altcoins. Okay, so we can see right now Bitcoin dominance is kind of just struggling right here to break through this channel. I believe that when it does, we're going to see pretty rapid appreciation in the altcoins, and that will be very exciting. And the USDT dominance, again, showing some strength here, which means that money is flowing back into the dollars. Now, of course, I don't believe that I guess we have actually broken this original downtrend here, maybe possibly getting some support. Well, we do have lots of resistance above with this 50% level plus this basically all-time support line that we've had that I've also talked about many times on the channel. So it's not all doom and gloom, but this seasonal rotation or slowdown can definitely pose opportunities. So I mean, that being said, I have a few different altcoins that I've been interested in just because risk reward. And so this is like the thing that I'm getting at basically. Like I have entered a couple positions here basically because the risk reward I think is good. To the downside, I mean, if we breach these lows, my risk is very minimal and I can always hunt for another entry on this, but we have broken a long-term downtrend and we are subtly forming higher lows. So to me, the risk reward on this trade is pretty decent and I know what my risk is if I do get stopped out. And I've actually done the same thing on Dogecoin because I'm seeing kind of a very similar thing where we broke out of this downtrend. We have a rounding base, higher highs, higher lows. This is a relatively bullish chart. Yes, there's going to be weakness ahead, but I also believe that we won't breach these lows. Okay, so you kind of have to go into this understanding like the analysis is one thing, trading is another. I typically want to be in the market because I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know exactly when this thing is going to pop. I do know that the corrections typically, the farther you go in a bull market, get shorter and shorter. The checks and balances that the market usually has get fewer and farther between. Typically you will have larger drawdowns, longer corrections, and then as you progress in the bull market, those checks get shorter and shorter and basically give you less opportunity to find those lows essentially. Okay. And I'm not even saying that this is a great entry on Dogecoin. It's just that I waited until we breached this downtrend and came down for a retest. I didn't even buy the perfect retest, but I just entered because I wanted to be in the market. I think I basically bought it on support right here, something like that. And now I just wait, and it's a waiting game. And now I know perfectly well that I can potentially be waiting up to a month for this trade to go into my favor. Do I care? Not necessarily, because I can make 115% very rapidly when it does, when and if it does go into my favor. Okay. So anyway, comments down below. Please leave a comment if you made it this far. I just like to do these videos to kind of bring a little bit of sobriety, I guess, to the markets because it's very exciting. And when things pop off, it can be very fun, very exciting, but you don't want to be chasing the market. You want to get positioned in the market when things are quiet, when things are, when the search terms are starting to decline, the volatility is starting to be reduced. That's when you want to be interested. If you really want to make it long term in this, you don't want to be interested when everybody else is interested. You want when everybody is going away because they're disinterested. They put in their money and it went against them, or they didn't make their millions right away. They just get disinterested. They walk away. That's typically when you want to be more engaged, and that's basically what I do on this channel. And yeah, so I think that's just it. I just wanted a quick quick update on that. We did get that signal flashing for the S&P 500, indicating perhaps we have a little bit longer before upside, which is actually probably a good thing because it will end up shaking a lot of people out of their positions. Before the market gets going again. That's typically what happens. You kind of get a sentiment reset, shake people out of their positions. That's why they call it a bull market, because it's not easy. It's very easy to get shaken out and you to lose your conviction unless you come back to the charts daily or weekly and continue doing your homework and basically just researching what the market typically does. Just to give, I think that can be your edge. Basically, is doing a little bit of homework and playing detective and seeing what these markets typically do, because the price data is all we have, and narratives or anything else can be kind of noisy. So you just dive into the charts and see what typically happens during any particular time, and it's going to give you an edge in this market. So anyway, hope that was helpful. Till next time, take care, guys.